Welcome, everyone, to the Northeast Indiana Basketball Summit. I'm your host, Ben Smith, joined by my co-host, Jeff Metzger. Before introducing our guest, we want to thank Feel for the Game for providing the platform to have all these presentations live and available for replay. You can check out all their resources over at feelforthegame.com. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Brandon Appleton, head coach in Angola Boys Basketball. Brandon's from Peru, Indiana. He graduated from Trine, formerly Tri-State University, where he played 4 years of basketball, 2 years of football, and 1 year of tennis. He got his start coaching at Cecina Memorial High School in Indianapolis as the JV boys coach. At the same time, he attended Marian University, where he received a master's in elementary education. After 7 years in Indianapolis, he returned to Angola as the boys varsity assistant. After 1 year, he became the girls varsity head coach, where he was for 6 seasons. They went 111 and 40 overall. They won 2 conference championships, 1 sectional championship. Last month, he became the boys varsity head coach at Angola as well. And I'll go ahead and unmute and start some video. Welcome, Coach. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on. It's exciting always to get a chance to talk a little basketball during this time.
Awesome. So we're gonna talk press defense today. Jeff, did you have any questions for Coach before we get started?
I do not.
How you doing,
All right,
Jeff?
well, floor is yours if you want to share something or you got a presentation. We can get that going.
Just a second here. Okay, so talk to you a little bit today about what we consider, I guess, our matchup press. We actually have a couple different presses, but 90% of what we run is our matchup press. So we'll spend the most time we can going over that and kind of try to teach you guys, give you guys a couple nuggets for what we do here in Angola in terms of pressing. We've done this on the girls' side for the last 6 seasons, had a lot of fun, a lot of success, and now transition to the boys. We're just trying to figure out how some of this is going to translate from the girls' side to the boys' side. Biggest reasons why we press, mainly it's fun to play and it's fun to coach. It's a lot of excitement for the fans and the players. It becomes a very, I don't know, almost I don't want to say it almost becomes an addiction. It's something you really enjoy and love to do. And the kids really buy into it. It's always a great part. The next part we always say is it allows us to play more players, especially taking over a program. You're trying to find who are the players that you want to run your system. And this allows you to maybe deepen your bench and put some kids in who maybe weren't getting the most minutes in certain systems or what have you, but hopefully can maximize some of their potential in terms of what they can achieve in terms of being an athlete. To me, it helps in player development. It forces kids and players into a lot of situations for decision-making when you get pressed. From the moment you have the ball in your hands until you pass it, you have to be able to make the right decision at the right time. Otherwise, it can be detrimental to your team if you don't have those abilities. And because of the speed with which pressing makes a player play, it forces them to not look at the coach and just look within themselves and try to make those decisions as they go on the fly. A big reason at the time when we started to press was there was no one else in the conference who was doing it. And it was very evident to me after my first season at the girls head coach. There was a lack of talented teams who I felt were able, outside of maybe 1 or 2 ball handlers, they just simply didn't have very many ball handlers. So I felt with the ability to trap and what I've seen in a lot of the scouting was it was a great way to maybe steal some possessions from teams because we weren't a great shooting team at the time or skilled team ourselves. And I just felt it kind of evened the playing field a little bit and allowed us to maybe we had good athletes, so it allowed us to kind of accentuate those athletes and put them in good positions. As time has gone on, it's become something that has definitely worn a lot of teams down. A lot of our footage and going through stats and stuff on Huddle, we were almost trailing going into half of our ball games going into the fourth quarter. And then we'd always find a way in the fourth quarter. Teams would you could just tell their legs would wear down when we were still going strong. And it was a very effective method for us. And then obviously a big one for me is just kind of a philosophy thing, man. There's no shot clock in Indiana basketball, which I think is something that needs to be changed. But not having a shot clock allows – there's a lot of great coaches here in Indiana who know all the rules inside and out. And if they get a 5-point lead with 4 to go, you better be ready to have something in your pocket to try to get away from that stall ball tactic that a coach might be able to throw at you and still keep the pressure on a team and find ways to get your team back in the game, even though you might have a little bit of that deficit. I think that's always a great value, a greatness that I see in a team if they have that ability, no matter the time, no matter the score. If they're down a little bit, of always believing they're in the game. And I think this pressing and what it does allows you to still have that feeling at all times. As we go through the presentation, I'm going to go through a couple stats. I'm not a big numbers guy, but it's just something to kind of look at, give you an idea of what our press can produce in terms of stats for your team. Again, I don't rely totally on stats, but at least gives you a snapshot of maybe what, if it's something you're thinking of doing, what you could look for. I'm going to go over some alignment stuff with you on the whiteboard, as well as an overview kind of the press and the places that we're looking to press, as well as here some we'll go over the emphasis, the things we're looking to emphasize within practice to make sure that the kids react the way you want to when those game situations occur. And then a little bit, some clips of our press and some things you can look for in terms of a coach. If we have some time at the end, maybe I'll give you guys some build-up drills and things we use in practice to kind of help push this to the next level, because those, I'm sure most of us understand, those build-up from 1-on-1 to 2-on-2 type drills into our full 5-on-5 is kind of what helps build that foundation for what it is you're trying to do. Here's some numbers over the past 3 years with our press: 17-18, 2018, 2019, and this past year, 2019, 2020. All the greens you can see are points off turnovers. We have routinely been somewhere around 20 points a game. That number has declined the last 2 years, and I think a lot of that has to do with just being as well scouted as we are. Teams know that we're trying to run and force pressure, and in my estimation, more teams on our schedule have become much more adept in handling our pressure in terms of having multiple girls that can handle the basketball. So I think that's a reason why that number's maybe gone down a little bit. But then you'll see steals. We're always somewhere right there around 15, 16 steals a game. And then forced turnovers. We have always been above 20 turnovers a game. And I think anytime you can get your opponents to turn the ball over 20 times or more a game, I think you're giving your team a great chance here to win a basketball game. So we have 3 main presses that we run. We call them white, black, and purple. And here in just a second, I will show you kind of what some of those look like before we get into some of our points of emphasis in our videos that we have for you. So in just a second, as I try to share back here the screen. No, I don't need that. There we go. All right, so we're back. So I'm going to show you guys real quick. I'll pull my whiteboard up. And all this is our basic alignment and our press. And please, Ben, if there's an issue with visual or you can't see something, stop me and I'll make sure I make it a little more easy to see. But we have 3 main presses that we do. We have white, black, and purple. And
you could bring it a little bit closer if you want.
Pardon me?
You could bring it a little bit closer if you want. I'm not sure how much space you have, but
got plenty. Make sure I got enough light to give you.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
All right.
We're good.
So, like I said, we have 3 presses. We have a white press, we have a black press, and we have a purple press. When we started, white was without question probably our primary press. And what that is all we're doing is lining our 2 defenders up high behind the 2 guards that we see up front. Obviously, with the designs of a lot of different presses, a lot of times they'll stack these 2 guards in the middle. But whatever it is, our defender here, which will be our 4 or our 5 usually, is going to take anything that goes to this corner here, and our other defender is going to take anything coming out this way. and that's where they're looking to line up every time. Our half-court defenders, I like this person to be probably our point guard, and this one's probably going to be our 3. If I had it in a perfect world, this would be my 5. Up front would be my 4, and then off to the side here would probably be our 2 as well, taking up one of those spots. So a little bit different maybe in some presses in terms of you have a lot of your speed up front in terms of your guards and kids that can really run. But with our press, we really want to put length at the front of the press to kind of give some of those guards a little bit more difficult of a time. In our black press, all of our rules will stay the same. The only thing that will change then is instead of being behind the 2 guards up front, we're now going to deny everything that comes in. And wherever these offensive players go, we're told stay off and away, but stay in front so the pass is difficult. This person up front for you, and I don't care what press it is, if it's a white, black, purple, has to be somebody long arms, active kid who can get a lot of deflections and just be a nuisance in your press. We've been fortunate in Angola. We've had quite a few 5'11" girls that can really run. We'll set them at the front of that press, and they've done a great job for us up there. But in black, we're denying everything. If they're flashing people up from the middle, we're running hard with them, trying to take something away, really forcing them to throw it over the top. And really, we want to run black. For a lot of teams, if they really want to get into a half-court game, we'll kind of stay in black a lot just to really emphasize forcing tempo and getting things going our way. Purple is – I apologize, I got these guys in the wrong spot here. Purple is the exact same as black in terms of we will have 4 kids in front of the 4 offensive players wherever they line up, and then we will have our on-ball defender now backed up, playing off the ball, reading the inbounder's eyes and trying to make a play from there. But once the ball comes in, all of our rules stay the same, all right? And we'll go back here to the presentation. I'll show you some of our rules of emphasis and give you guys some videos, and then we can maybe come back and draw some of this up to try to make it look a little bit different to you, or a little easier for you to understand. So, but when we talk about emphasis of our press, and this can seem a little overwhelming at times, but if you are a pressing coach or a pressing team, these are a lot of things I think you're probably trying to emphasize as well, based on whatever that press is you are running. But within our press, we are first trying to force a speed dribble first and foremost. We want to get them out of control a little bit, maybe going faster than what their coaches or what they're used to. And then those are the moments we're trying to look to trap people. We're looking to hit them, put them in one of the corners somewhere and make them make a tough pass. A lot of times with this defense, we are almost telling our guys up front, it's okay to get beat. As long as you're busting it back, trying to get a back tip, trying to get the ball cut where they got to cross over and come back to the middle, or cross over and come back to the sideline, whichever it is, you're constantly in a state of chaos. You're always running, always moving. Now, if a teammate cuts you, if you get beat and a teammate comes up and tries to cut the ball and stops it, chances are that offensive player is looking to cross over. That's the big one that we're looking to get a back tip and continue to get our team out and running. When the ball first comes in, if you would have noticed on our presentation here, it's once that ball first comes in, if it's below that block, we're looking to trap that pass automatically. Because they're getting in that coffin corner, if they want to put it there, we're going to make them pay for it as best we can. A lot of teams are very well disciplined with that. If they know a team's going to come every first pass, then you'll be beaten very easily. I think that's something we do really well. We mix and match. How many times we're going to hit that first pass, just kind of give them some things to think about in terms of the player, and from there we'll play. When the ball is passed out of a trap, and this one is probably one of the bigger ones you're going to want to look at, is pay close attention to the 2 guys that you have trapping the ball, and are they sprinting as soon as the ball leaves the fingertips of the offensive player? Because if they are, you have a chance to really limit what they can get on the back end in terms of layups and wide open looks. But if they're turning their head and watching the ball before they turn and sprint, that's when you know you're going to be in trouble. Another aspect we look to that we emphasize a lot, especially with that on-ball defender, our 4 or our 5 even, is if the ball goes above the block and we don't have a good run at it in that first pass, your job is to get above the block, and you're essentially playing a full-court shell defensive drill at that point, trying to keep the ball in front of you and waiting for those opportunities when that ball does get a speed dribble at you and when you're looking to hit. Any and all traps, you're trying to get foot to foot and do not get split. You get split, you're going to be in a constant state of fix-it mode, and the more times you're in that fix-it mode, oftentimes are when you have the most trouble as well. A big one that is always almost a forgotten trait when in terms of pressing. If you are on the ball, whether it's in a trap or you're guarding the ball one-on-one defensively, your main objective is not necessarily to get that steal. Now, obviously, if somebody's going to put the cookie out in the cookie jar and you can get your hands on it, take it. But we are first emphasizing keep your hands off and get deflections. Lots and lots of tips, because if you can get those deflections, we have two interceptors who are going to be there active and ready to get that steal. So making sure your players understand, show the officials your hands. Don't get it caught in the breadbasket where you're picking up fouls, because fouling negates everything that we try to do within this press. Here you can see a little diagram of where the areas are we're looking to really hit you in terms of pressing. Now I would even say, as you follow my cursor, I'll even go anywhere over here on this side of half court, even if I have to, in terms of pressing. But you can see here, anything that's coming below the block, we're looking to hit in this corner in one of these coffin corners. And then from there, we're looking to do a lot of reading and a lot of trapping, hopefully. We switch all screens, as you saw with the 2-up on the whiteboard. If those two guards are screening across, we're simply just going to switch this action. Oh, hang on one second. I apologize. And continue to play. If there's a cutter coming across the way, if this person's making a diagonal across, 2 is going to make that run with them. You'll see in a video here in just a second. We get a good diagonal cut from the offensive player, but it puts us in a different position, but we still find a way to make a good trap out of it. You're always looking to trap in these prime spots if you can. Now, with the way our press runs, we're not always going to be in those areas, so we have to be able to fix it from a lot of different positions, whether it's a trap in the middle of the floor, maybe a little bit higher than where we want it. And there's times we've honestly had to even tell them, let's not trap a team. We just want to be there with that token pressure and really be active with the team. Any turnover, this is a big one. We want, as soon as the ball's in our hands, we want to look to attack. Go finish it with the score. Put the pressure on the opposing team and make them pay for not being able to take care of the basketball on their half of the floor. And like I was mentioning earlier, man, do not foul. Fouling negates everything we want to do with the press. We want to wear those first 5 players out so they have to play their bench. Or we want to get them in foul trouble so they have to bring in players that maybe they don't rely as heavily on, and force them to do things maybe a little bit more uncomfortably than what they are used to. Now, before I get too far, I want to go over some of the points of emphasis so you can see a couple some things here on the whiteboard as far as what we do, where we're looking to trap and things like that, just so it makes a little more sense. And then I will try to come back here and show you guys a couple good clips of our kids doing some of those same things. So let's see. Ben, you got me back here now on the whiteboard?
Yep.
Good. And again, we can go through at the end if people have questions, if teams are running 3-up, 4-up, 1-up in terms of press breaks, how we're going to align to it. But for the most part, I'm going to try to stick with a lot of 2-up scenarios, because inevitably teams will end in this sort of, whether they go 4-up, whether they go 3-up, they always seem to end up in a similar format as to what you see here with our 4-up actions. But let me clean some of this up and we can kind of get into some of this and what we're trying to do here. So the biggest thing is speed dribble, like we mentioned at the top. And I'll use this middle board here to kind of give some of this to you. So we have an offensive player here, and at half court. Once they get the ball in, I'm probably going to tell our big who's guarding the ball, guarding our inbounder, we want to shade a little bit to one side so the ball can't come to this big open side. We would like it to always try to come to this corner. Now, depending on the ability of the team that we're playing, if I think they're terrible at ball handling, I'm going to tell this person to go hit that first pass all night long. We obviously know we're going to see teams that are better than that, and we want to prepare for those teams. So we'll tell them frequently to not go and hit that first pass, even if it is below the block, because we might be afraid of what this guard is going to do to us offensively. So as this guard breaks and gets themselves open, wherever they catch it, she's got the ball or he's got the ball here, we should be right here squared up, ready to get them going zigzagging any which way. But you're trying to force them into a speed dribble. Whoever my big is guarding this person needs to be running and getting above the ball as fast as he or she can, because there might be a speed dribble coming this way where we're going to run and jump you, or we may force you guys sideline, and we may look to hit you with who this sideline defender is with high hands. All right. So we're going to come at you a lot of different ways. We'll hit you in a corner with a quick trap. We'll hit you with a run and jump in the middle, or we'll hit you up the sideline. If the ball happens to get rotated around to this guard, same rules apply. Whoever's guarding this player is going to have this person and really looking to force them into a speed dribble. I should have another defender here. And obviously, as this ball is being advanced up the basketball court, so too is the offensive player starting to drag, which would also drag us back with them. But as it's coming, we see the ball being dribbled up the sideline. This person defensively is going to make a decision. Are they going to stunt and stay? Are they going to just take off and go? We're trying to get them, I say, inside those coaching lines, those coaches' boxes that we coaches hate. We're trying to trap anywhere we can inside of there. If we time it right, and this defensive player for us, as the ball is being speed dribbled up the sideline here, as it's starting to enter this zone, this is kind of what we're looking for. This defensive player now has to make a decision to run as fast and with high hands at this player, because what's going to happen with our rotation is this defensive player is going to run up as this offensive player is continuing to go. And oftentimes, if you can get this player in a speed dribble, 90% of the time, I bet, they are going to throw a lob over the top to this player, which is what we want. We want to force those rotations, because as all this is happening, all of these players now are starting to circulate down. Well, our defensive player is making a beeline over here to become our interceptor. This off defensive player now is come back to be our protector. And then whoever was our girl up front at the top of our press is going to be our other interceptor. So we have two interceptors at all times. This one's our protector. This one's our interceptor. This one's another interceptor, which is hard to see in this scenario. So if I clean it up for you to give you guys a better understanding of where we are in our press, all right, we've now got the ball advanced here to half court. We've came with high hands, so I should have a girl or a guy flying in right here with high hands, as well as I should have somebody on a hip pocket right here if they don't pick up their dribble. All right, we have an offensive player probably somewhere in these areas. There's probably one behind for a reversal. And there might even be one cut into the middle looking for a ball. All right, so we've taken whoever this girl was over here, and she is now sprinted to become an interceptor on this side. We've taken the up guard, who actually would be guarding this person cutting across, and they would actually now be looking to protect. They have that long sprint that we hate as a press, but it's part of it. And then whoever was up here guarding the ball, or I'm sorry, guarding the inbounder now, has worked their way above the ball, and now they're interceptor high. They're looking to pick any of this off. If this cut does happen, this interceptor high, we would allow this cut to the middle happen because we've had to fall off and protect. And then our interceptor is going to shade this way because this is the pass that beats us. But this interceptor is looking to pick this pass off or pick this pass off because of the pressure that we've put here. This run right here, we have a girl. We want our athletes to be at half court. We have a girl in Allie Lawrence who was a great athlete for us, one of the highest IQ players I think I've ever coached. If she was on the opposite side of what that ball was coming, you knew she was coming across to get a steal, and she did a great job for us. But we'll trap you anywhere and everywhere on the floor. This tends to be primarily what we do in terms of where we trap, how we trap the most. Some other areas, and hopefully I have some of these even clipped out for you. If we don't get the ball cut, and when we talk about being cut, just so you guys all understand, as the ball's coming up the sideline here, if I have a defender who can get over here and get the ball cut, so it's got to turn back towards the middle. We're just trying to get the ball cut as many times as we can. But oftentimes we can't always get it cut the way we want. So this offensive player, we might not trap you until all the way down here. And that's perfectly fine with us. We want every single possession that you have the ball, we want to trap you somehow different than what we did the time before. We may trap you full court up here in the corner. We may trap you right here at the half. We may trap you down here in the middle, right underneath. We may trap you at this half. We may trap you down at the bottom corner on your side of the floor. We want to always be surprising teams as far as where we trap, when we trap, and how we trap. So that's kind of in a nutshell of what it is. I'm going to show you guys some video clips that will hopefully show some of these actions and these things that we emphasize a little bit better. And from there, if you guys got any questions, I'll gladly try to share those with you. So let me get my screen shared with you, and I'll get these videos going for you. So this first one, you'll see a young lady run with the cutter like we had asked, and then she turns into becoming the person who's going to fly up and get try to get high hands and get a deflection for us. And you'll see that here for us. So I'll try my best to slow this down. So the ball has come in, and it didn't come in necessarily the direction we wanted. It came across the floor, but Kayla's job here is to force speed dribble, which she never was great at this, but she was one of my best defenders. And you see at some point in time, this girl decides to turn it on and come up the sideline here. You can see Megan is in a position to attack as well as Allie. What's actually going to happen here is 10 for offense is going to drift this way. You're going to see the weak side guard is going to make a cut that we end up staying with. And at one point in time, because of the way this happens, you'll actually see Maisie here is going to be the one who runs up and attacks this ball handler as Allie sprints across and almost knocks me over here and tries to get a steal. Let's see if we can hold on. Jumped ahead of slide, so apologize. Here you go. Take a look at this. There she takes off to high hands. We got an interceptor. Oh, almost had it. Our next slide here just gives you an example of the type of shots we're looking for. A lot of teams don't like to play this style and this pace, so we want a lot of these types of looks for teams. We want to force tempo. Man, if I learned how to do Google Slides, this would be a lot easier, wouldn't it, guys? But they get the ball out here and they take off and go, and this is what we want. This is a team that plays a lot of half-court basketball, runs a flex-style offense, but we want those quick mid-range shots like that. We'll keep those going all day long. Here you'll see another example. And we don't do a great job in this clip of forcing a speed dribble, but you can get the sense that this guard is not real comfortable playing this kind of pace. And you can see here we're in a bad position. Our defender is behind. This guard should be taking and busting out and really looking to attack. But you can tell this team's just not quite comfortable with it when the ball's not in their guard's hands. And that's very frequently what we're looking to do with our press. Get it out of the primary ball handler's hands. Force other people to make decisions because they will struggle with those moments at times. Come on. But again, they're running full speed, and now they make an errant pass because they're not used to playing at that pace. Here's another this isn't a great cut and double, but Hannah has a girl pinned here in the corner. She does a pretty good job of getting her cut where it's not the best coming from behind on this trap that Lauren has, but because of her size at 5'11", she gets a deflection and ends up giving our interceptor a nice steal here. Gets her cut. You see her coming. That's all right. We get a deflection, and we turned it into 2. This one for me is a big one that shows, I think, a bigger emphasis of what we do defensively. We love to disrupt rhythm. We want to make you do things you're not comfortable with. If you want to run sets every time, we want to make that very difficult for you. If you want a particular person to be the one who always runs your offense, we want to take the ball out of that person's hands. And Alexis here for Prairie Heights is usually the girl who that is, and we do a great job in this game of making it tough for her to have the basketball. And you can see here for Prairie Heights, the ball ends up in a freshman's hands, and instead of attacking the rim, because kids are so conditioned not to just dribble down and shoot right away, they're conditioned to dribble down and pass and give it off to a teammate because they don't want to be a selfish player. They very frequently don't take advantage of what the advantage is they have. And we're running our black. We get it in there. She's forced. Now she's got a fast break here, but she decides to back it out instead of attack. And now we've got them. And all that time now has been spent just trying to get things started in their offense. Now, we do have a couple that we do as far as some special situations. You play a great point guard who you just can't press, you just can't trap. They're just going to end up being 5-on-3 going the other way because of their ability. I got a couple clips here that we've ran against a Ball State recruit and how we wore her down in the games that gave us a lot of great success with what we call our Z press. Clear outs is another one you have to go over with. I think that's something that in the past I have done a terrible job of preparing our kids for. is how we're going to continue to press on clearouts. And I'll show you on the whiteboard if that's something you want to look at as far as what you're supposed to do in those situations to continue to get pressure. Because oftentimes if you play teams who clear out, if you play those teams that clear out, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stop sharing my screen there. They oftentimes don't have many other options besides that clearing out. And obviously for us on the girls' side, we've had the luxury of having multiple players who can guard multiple positions, which makes us very interchangeable. Both offensive and defensively puts a lot of pressure on the other team. And, hats off to my girls. They bought into how hard you had to work at this because make no mistakes about it. If for 1 second you are a player who thinks you can get away with taking a break on defense, and this type of press and this type of defense will not allow that. So I guess let me get one more here. I'll show you these clips of this Z press. We ran this against Sydney Freeman at Central Noble for all 4 years that she was there because she was just a dynamite. You'll see 3 different possessions here of Sydney getting the ball. And we did this to her the entire game. We had 2 kids in front of her wherever she went in the full court. And if you get a chance to practice, put your best player with the basketball full court against 2 kids and tell them to go the entire night with 2 kids in their face and how exhausted they're going to be in a very short amount of time. And that's what we tried to do to this girl. And to my girls' credit, we were very successful against Central Noble doing this and forcing a lot of girls to do some other things. A lot of this is scout-based. We had noticed between Central Noble, they had a lot of shots. 90% of their shots were coming from 2 players. So we really wanted to neutralize those 2 players, and this defense just created it for us. And that right there is what you see happens a lot with Sydney or a lot of those great players. And you all understand what those players are like. They simply at some point, because they keep seeing 2 kids and 2 kids are always coming at them, they just start to give the ball up. And all you wanted to do was get it out of their hands. And you were able to do that with our Z press. So it's got a lot of little intricacies of it. A lot of it is a lot more scouting based. You tend to see some sort of press break. We've seen them all now, but once you see a couple of them in scouting, you pretty much can have your team kind of dialed into what they're going to run. And most teams, because they don't see presses very often, they might only have a couple. And if you can figure those 2 out and really hone in on them, you can give a team a lot of fits in terms of how they're going to get up the floor against you. So what questions do you have? I went through it extremely fast. I'm sure I missed several teaching points. So by all means, if there's something you guys need me to elaborate on a little more, or help some people understand a little better, I'll be glad to.
I think we got a couple questions here for you.
Yeah, Ben, do you have a question first?
No, you guys go ahead.
All right. So the question for me, Brandon, my bad, is I'm a big fan of girls basketball, and let's say there's a coach out here listening. What would you say is, if he's used to coaching boys basketball, what's something you say he should look forward to coaching with girls?
Man, that's a good question. I would say the biggest thing is they're really not any different than boys. The differences, I think the biggest differences you notice between coaching girls and coaching boys is, especially being a male coach, is just the banter that you can have between the players. There's definitely things I can say to girls that I can't say to guys, and vice versa. There's things I can say to the guys that I would never even consider saying to the girls. But for the most part, they're definitely a little bit easier. I don't know if you want to say easier or harder. They listen so well that they follow it to a T, whereas boys don't listen so well, so they don't always follow it to a T. So there's definitely that fine line of, you want the kids to play and be an athlete, but still run what you're trying to run. Whereas the girls sometimes run it so well that they'll go running right into a defensive player because that's what they were told to do. Well, so there's some little bit of that, but other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. They're all kids. Some of them you got to kind of be easy on. Some of them you got to be real hard on. And The sooner you find that out, the easier your job is.
All right, thank you.
Jeremy, did you have something?
Yeah, what's up, Coach? How are you?
Good.
Hey, I think we kind of just alluded to this not too long ago, but I think, some people that'll watch this might say, well, if we had these type of athletes, we could do this, or, well, is he going to do this now that, you might be able to do it in conference, but will you be able to do it in sectional? So
Yeah.
I guess my general question is, where does athleticism fit within the scope of success in your press?
That was something that early on really concerned me. I had a couple girls who were long but couldn't run for anything. And I think the biggest part of it is just kind of grooming your program to have those kind of players. Um, you know, I can always put somebody who's a little, and if I would even do it with, I've had a couple girls that weren't exactly the fastest, even here in the recent years. Well, I always want to put them at the front of the press because that's probably where they'll hurt us the least. Where if they're one of those mid half court players, they have a lot more freedom and flexibility, but they also fix a lot of the problems as they see things unfolding in front of them. So um, it's very easy to run. Now, obviously, if I had a team that was not as fast as maybe what some of my last couple of years teams that I've had, we wouldn't trap nearly as much. We'd be a lot more concerned about keeping that defender in front, but still giving them that presence of pressure and that presence of defense. And a lot of times, if you would have seen us in sectionals, we didn't go running and jumping at Concordia with near the intensity that we would Garrett or Leo in that same sectional. We just know they're a more skilled team, and if we continue to run two at them, they're just going to burn us on the back end. Coach Miller and some of the coaches around the state are just too well. They'll have you too well scouted. They'll pick you apart. And it took us a couple of years to figure out what Concordia was going to do. But I think once you start getting into sectionals and things like that, it's a lot more scout based in terms of, hey, do we feel we could really run and jump at these teams, or do we need to kind of hold some things back and just keep them in front, play good half court pressure defense?
Gotcha. And that kind of leads to my next point. What does conditioning look like for you guys in preseason and then in season?
That is something that I try to warn kids. If you want to run this system, you're going to be the best conditioned athlete in this high school. I told it to my girls every year. I go, you can go play all the other sports, volleyball, softball. There will not be another sport. And it's just my my bias towards basketball that will require as much physical fitness as what doing what I'm asking you to do. We run a lot. I think that's one of the best parts. And I think, even taking over a new program, I'm going to show them the press, because at the very minimum, they're going to get in great shape. Now, we might not press like I want to, but we're going to be in phenomenal shape and we won't get tired. But we do it. We'll put 20 minutes on the clock, and with maybe 12 kids, all right, you're going to press for 20 minutes and we're going to teach you all the rules and get after it. And the end of that 20 minutes, kids are just dragging. But it allows you to see those moments when kids don't want to make that big full court run that they have to make to finish the rotation and protect the basket, to not give up a layup, and allows you to kind of see who some of your dogs are, who's really going to dig down and get dirty and play some good defense. Because if you can be disciplined in this press, you can have a lot of success. And yeah, you're going to give up some layups, but I think you'll be surprised at how few you give up if you can get kids to really buy into it and run.
Absolutely. And then just my last one here is just kind of a clarification. Would you say a way to sum up your Z press is just a kind of a constant double team when the player has the ball?
Honestly, all the rules stay the same. The only rule that changes is when that person that we're trying to provide the Z press on touches the ball, we want two kids about 3 to 4 feet right in front of them, and forcing them to either beat us 1-on-2 or to give the ball up again. And then once they give the ball up, we keep one on to deny. And yeah, I think some of that goes into scouting too. We try to not let that ball get back in that person's hands, because more often than not, the plays they want to run or the offense they want to run are going through that player. And we've done a great job of really just messing up teams' rhythm. And it just something little like that, taking away the point guard, messes up the rhythm of shooters on that same team and just puts them in a difficult position. But from that moment on, it's more the same principles. Depending on how dangerous we feel the other 4 players are on the floor with that player, kind of determines how aggressive we are with our other 4 players running and trapping, because we've essentially taken a player out of the press.
Right. Gotcha. Appreciate you, Coach. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you that you haven't already answered either now or previously. Again, obviously on the court, you know, you can do a little bit different things, but
yeah, no, I wish I had some live bodies to show everybody. I could kind of make all this make a lot more sense. Or I'm definitely gonna have to invest in fast model here the next couple of days. Start putting all this stuff in fast model so I have a nice library to show everybody.
Sounds great. Jeff, did you have anything else for Coach? Otherwise, we can let him get on with his evening, I guess.
Nope, that was all. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you, Brandon. We'll talk soon.
See ya.